Welcome, everyone, to yet another beautiful look at our faces. Lean forward, Barry. Lean forward into the camera.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Look at this handsome face
Well,
right here.
except we can barely see yours. You need to lean to the left a little bit. But once again, it's the boys from Breaking Kayfabe with Bowdern and Barry. I am Jeff the Booker Bowdern, and that is my man, Barry Rose, Lord Barons himself. Tonight, for our second, that's two, where are we at here? There we go, two. Our second episode of the visual podcast here on YouTube. We're going to talk a little life. We haven't done that in a while, Barry. We're going to talk about Lord Barons and his trip to Europe. Did the whole subcontinent thing there. We're going to talk about, Barry, a recent situation involving myself. We're going to talk a little local news coming out of the Tampa area that Lord Barons told me about earlier today, involving a story that we covered, in fact, in episode uno. But, Barry Rose, first of all, how you doing?
You know what? If I was doing any better, I'd fucking be you at this point, Jeff.
Well,
I'm
it's,
doing great.
I mean, you dream of having my life, essentially. I'm sure. So,
Absolutely.
yes. So,
Absolutely.
Barry Rose, we want to start off with talking about your trip to Europe, and we're going to dovetail that. Excellent use of the term dovetail, and I'm sure someone will tell me, "Hey, you used it wrong, Jeff." But anyway, with a big ceremony that's coming up post Fan Fest. We're going to talk about that Fan Fest, by the way, Rose, because you've had a couple guests that you've announced that might be appearing on this show
Hello?
in the near future. So, Barry Rose, first of all, how you doing? And then tell us about your trip recently to Europe.
Yeah, well, I'm living the fucking dream
You
in
really
Holiday,
are.
Florida, suburb of Tampa. But yeah, the trip to Europe too was arguably my favorite trip that I've ever taken. And uh, we spent 4 or 5 days in London, then we spent an additional 4 days in Paris, which I guess doesn't make sense because we were gone for 12 days. So my math is fucked up somewhere, as normal. But it was really the trip of a lifetime. And there was about a million stories that I could share with you. I'm going to share one story, of course, it's going to relate to food in a way. But what I really wanted to talk about is I went with Dee. And Dee is Lady Nani, as she was named when we were still doing Breaking Kayfabe with Baldrin and Barry. But a lot of people got to meet her at the last Fan Fest, which took place at the end of March this year, 2025. And, there was so many people that came up to me at the end of the event and were like, I've known you for 20 years. I've never seen you look this happy before. And the reality is, Jeff, I believe it was the first month that she and I were dating where we did an episode and I came clean and I said, I don't think I've ever been in love before. And if I have, it certainly isn't the love that I feel now.
Does that
And
count the time, Barry, that you and I, quite frankly, cuddled one night? But that's a different story. Go ahead, please.
that was the male on male cuddling, but this
True,
little bit,
true.
your breasts weren't big enough for me, Jeff, is what it
Well, I
really came down.
tried.
And they were in my size, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't quite as big as I normally would enjoy. But the reality was, earlier this year, which we talked about on an episode of Breaking Kayfabe with Baldrin and Barry, I fell in love. And it was a highly unique experience. Partly what I always liked about our show when we did our show was that we did discuss everything in life. We discussed whatever it was. You went through a cancer battle. Lord knows I reference that all the time because, you were recording episodes in the fucking hospital with IVs hooked up to your arm. I get a fucking hangnail and I got to take a week off. So props to you with that. But
You're
we
like
discussed that.
LeBron.
What do you say?
You're like LeBron. Go ahead.
I'm like LeBron. I have cramps tonight and I can't play. But we discussed, look, my divorce, we discussed. We discussed the woman that I dated immediately following. We discussed you moving from Florida to Georgia, your daughter's wedding, the loss of your father when your father passed away. We've always been really honest with people that have invested time by listening to us. And that was something we started off right from the beginning. So when I fell in love, it was really interesting to me because I'll be 62 this year. And granted, I still look like I'm in my 40s. I know that with the next words coming out of your mouth, but the reality was at almost 62, 61 years old, I thought this was it, right? Like I thought I'm in the seventh or eighth inning of life. I was unsure romantically what would ever happen. And then, like a fucking lightning bolt, like Thor's hammer on the top of my head, I fell in love. And it was really this amazing thing. And there has not been a day since I fell in love with this beautiful woman that I haven't been in love. Like every day this grows stronger. And we had the opportunity to take this trip. And we spent, I guess it was 5 or 6 days in London, somewhere around that. Then we transitioned, went over to Paris, and then we came back to London for a day. But I know that, when it comes to our brothership and people that listen to us and now watch us, and I apologize for the fact that you have to watch us now in these spaces, but it was a trip that was really centered around not just the love that we had for each other. And you asked me what the highlight it is, and the highlight of that entire trip was being able to walk hand in hand with her throughout Europe every day. But hey, fuck food. I mean, let's be honest. We are foodies. We've always been foodies, and that's what we searched out. And there was a day where we had two lunches, multiple bakery visits, and then of course we had dinner. But I think I may have related the Wanda Sykes story to you, and if not, I'm going to tell you a second time, Jeff. But I know that the listeners have not heard this story. So Dee and myself were walking around Paris, and I believe it was a Tuesday afternoon, and we were walking down a street, a packed street, restaurant after restaurant, and there's a lobster roll place. And I'm like, fuck, I want to go try a lobster roll, right? So I'm, Dee, let's go get a lobster roll. And she goes, yeah, too much butter and too many sauces and all this shit's all over it. And I was like, all right, fully understand. We make it down to the end of the block, and I'm like, is there any way I could convince you to try a lobster roll? I really wanted a lobster roll. And she goes, you know what? I'm sure we'll find something. We go in, we order a lobster roll. We're sitting outside, and there's a big guy outside. He's probably 6'3". I'll say he's 350 pounds. I mean, I'm like 165, so everybody's bigger than I am physically, but this guy was a big guy, and they kept bringing him food. They'd be like lobster roll, grilled cheese with lobster, hot dog, whatever it was. This guy was getting food after food. So Dee struck up a conversation with the guy, and we started talking to him. And it turns out that he was handling private security for a celebrity. So we picked up the hint that we probably shouldn't ask who it is. And he volunteers and goes, do you know who Wanda Sykes is? Now, Dee and myself actually had an inside joke about it. Jeff, you're familiar with who Wanda Sykes
Of
is?
course, yes.
So we had an inside joke. If you remember, she had spent a couple of seasons on Curb Your Enthusiasm on HBO Max. And there was an episode, which was her first appearance, and I didn't know that at the time, where Larry says to her, I recognize that tush anywhere. And the whole episode becomes that Larry is somehow fixated on big asses now. And I was watching this show in bed one night. She was in bed with me. Hold on a sec. There we go. She was in bed with me, sleeping on me, but I was laughing so hard that I kept waking her up. So we actually had a Wanda Sykes story. So the guy goes, do you know who Wanda Sykes is? And we're like, fuck yeah, we know who Wanda Sykes is. And we start telling this story. So he looks at us and he goes, wow, you guys really are fans. A minute later, he's on the phone and he goes, hey, do I still have those 2 tickets for tomorrow night? So we got invited to go see Wanda Sykes. Beauty of that, the guy also gave us half of his grilled cheese with lobster, which I got to fucking tell you, if you've never had a grilled cheese and lobster sandwich and that sounds good to you, fucking just run out now and get the ingredients and make one, because it was out of this fucking world. So we show up the next night and we're real excited to see Wanda Sykes. And as we go to get our tickets, we now see that we have backstage passes to meet Wanda Sykes. And this is
Nice.
all happened by a chance encounter at a
Right.
fucking lobster roll place on a street in Paris. So we watched the concert. First off, Wanda Sykes is the funniest human being alive, in my opinion. And There was not one moment during that almost 90-minute set that it dragged on or anything like that. I mean, she was absolutely hysterical from start to finish. And Dee and I still make jokes about that night, and we reference things like washcloths. And a few other things as well. And rounding up, that whole rounding up shit everywhere you fucking go now. Uh, so she was great. We got to meet her. We told her the story. She couldn't have been any nicer or any sweeter to us. So then we get home that night. We have sushi afterwards. Guy fell off his bike in the middle of a road. We get back to the room, and there had been this massive storm taking place in Paris, and our windows of our room actually blew open, and a massive fucking tidal wave of water came in. Where did it land? Directly on my bag, my duffel bag, with all of my clothes. Was my shit wet? I could pick up the bag and fucking empty water out of it. So everything I owned from A to Z was completely soaking wet. So we had to make the decision of what the fuck are we going to do now? We went the next day, we did our laundry, and wound up eating 2 lunches, multiple fucking bakery trips, and a lot of fucking snacking. But the highlight of that trip, more importantly than anything else, was the closeness that Dee and I, it really brought us close. This was 12 days uninterrupted where she wasn't, as she had told me, she wasn't Dee the mother or Dee the wife. She was Dee. And we got to spend an uninterrupted 12, almost 13 days together. And while I was deeply in love prior to that trip, that was kind of the cement. The nail was put into the wood on that one. I was head over heels in love with this woman, and we had talked about it, and we decided that we wanted to do something special to celebrate our love, Jeff.
And you have a very special event coming up right after the Fan Fest.
I do, and hey, guess what? I've even got a special guest right next to me, ladies and gentlemen. Look
Well,
at this.
who's that?
It is the lovely Dee making her podcast appearance in a lot of ways. And again, a lot of people got to meet her at the last Fan Fest, but she wanted to be here with me. So we've told a few people about this. We've invited a few people, but we wanted to make the announcement, Jeff, that coming up the weekend of October 25th, Friday night, is going to be a Q&A with Ted DiBiase, the Million Dollar Man. Saturday, October 25th, which is my birthday, by the way. I will be 40 for the 12th year in a row.
Don't tell anybody.
Uh, yeah, exactly. And that is my birthday on the 25th. But on the 26th, this lovely woman and myself will be having a commitment ceremony and doing it at one of our favorite restaurants, which is called the Lucky Lobster. It's in Dunedin, Florida. Some people have been there. I know Michael Herrick was there with me previously, but we love this restaurant. And it's a big deal that we're having this commitment ceremony where we're committing to each other.
So, why don't you explain just exactly what a commitment ceremony is to the good listeners?
Would you like to take this?
Oh God. Okay.
Are you
First of
nervous?
all,
Yeah.
You are.
D, first of
Just
all, before you started on your very first podcast appearance, did you make sure the hair is brushed, the teeth were brushed, everything, the
Yeah.
makeup is fine, everything's good? Because I'm going to be sitting
Yeah.
next to, Mr. Handsome Barry Rose, Lord Barons himself. Did you, in fact, do all that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, then go ahead. Take it away, D.
Okay, so I don't really know where to start, but a commitment ceremony, me and Barry decided to have. It's not like a traditional wedding. There's nothing legal, even though, sometimes we do wish it was. But a commitment ceremony is almost just like for us, anyways, a big celebration for all of our friends and all of our loved ones to come. And we want to commit our love and our relationship with each other in front of everyone that we love. And we just want to party.
Yeah, and and partly too, there is a very legitimate reason that we're not having a traditional wedding. There's probably two reasons. One is we're not traditional people.
Correct.
We don't want this, but the second thing, and Jeff, you've known about this since the very beginning of our relationship, and a couple of people have had, is that this lovely woman sitting next to me is married. And she is polyamorous, which means she can have more than one partner at a time. And you and I have talked, at great lengths about it and all of that. And certainly we could, discuss it, answer any questions. But, for me, it was important that I don't want to say come clean in a sense, but we've always been very honest, and we didn't want people showing up to a ceremony, because a lot of people that have gotten the invite have said to me, "Oh, I can't wait to come to your wedding." And we had to be very clear. If the situation was different, this would be a real wedding. In our hearts, the commitment that we have to each other is as strong as any wedding. I mean, we were at a birthday party for her husband. I'm good friends with her husband 2 weeks ago, and we were talking with somebody, and we said we actually have 4 matching tattoos. And that person said to us, I got a friend request from that person, by the way, today. I swear to God.
Wow.
I know. And I forgot to tell you that. And so the person said to us, 4 tattoos, that is a stronger commitment than marriage. And in some ways it may be. You got 4 tattoos, you're not getting that shit erased off, Marriage, you can go get a divorce. But we have been so close. We see each other every day. We talk from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed. Our relationship is, and I will go on record and say it, is the best relationship I have ever had. It is the happiest I have ever been in my entire life. And I couldn't love her anymore. I tell her every day exactly how much I love her. And I go on and on every day because I do. Because she has changed my world, Jeff. She has literally changed my world. So we have a gigantic weekend coming up. The weekend of the 25th. You've got Friday night's going to be a Q&A. I'm not doing a promo.
Hit it, Barry.
I know I'm
Hit
selling
it.
the event and the ceremony. Good Lord. I'm like a whore at this point, ladies and gentlemen. Just another prostitute. But
it's not like, quite frankly, Barry, it's not like you're
loving it too, aren't you?
no, it's not like you've just became a whore. Let's be honest with each other.
Yeah, it just started tonight, exactly. So Friday night Q&A with Ted DiBiase. Saturday all day fan fest. My birthday as well. Feel free to bring gifts, cakes, whatever it is. I love all that stuff. And then Sunday, which would be October the 26th, Dee and I will be hosting a commitment ceremony at the Lucky Lobster, where we are going to exchange our vows. We are going to have somebody to declare us partner and partner, is what I think it's going to be. And then we're going to put on one hell of a party right after. And Jeff, you were the first person I invited and the first person to respond. I'm super excited that we get to see you and the lovely Kim there as well.
Well, quite frankly, I should have been the first one, even before, Zoe and Zach. And of course, now, on behalf of our listeners, 1 or 2 questions.
Absolutely.
First of all, the most important thing is, how does this all affect Ozzy?
Sure. Which is an amazing question. So partly the beauty of this relationship is that this is a very open relationship. Her husband, who I think the world of, also has has had a partner for about 2 years. I love his partner. I couldn't love this situation anymore, which it sometimes is almost odd for me to think that way. I'm like, really? Because this is not my world. But at the same token, it has just been beautiful. And I have to give her a lot of credit for that. And I always do with that. But Ozzy has taken to her and her boys and her husband, because we actually will spend the night there some nights. And I was at the house one day and her husband called up, wasn't there, and said, I want to stop and get Ozzy food and all this stuff. So there's this nurturing that takes place by her family. I love her boys. She has two younger boys, 10 and 8. And, I couldn't be any closer with them at this stage. I absolutely love them. We go swimming. Her one son was wearing my shoes today. So I love that. But Ozzy is the child that still lives with me, and Ozzy loves her. She walked in the door today. Ozzy looks at me. He's like, I have no fucking idea who you are anymore. And he goes straight for her. So he loves her.
So I don't know if you caught that, Barry. My boy Snap was getting ready to make his podcast debut in the video form. So
Bring it on, Snap. Bring it
well,
on.
he's left now. So
Oh,
however, my second question, a slightly
sure.
more serious note. So I'm sure there are those people out there that are not familiar with the particular nature of this kind of relationship. So old schoolers might say polyamorous. Didn't they used to just call that swingers? So explain briefly the nature of a polyamorous relationship for the good listeners.
Absolutely. It's 100% completely different than swinging.
Check.
And I will say that so I had to do a lot of research when it came to polyamory to really understand what it was. And because I think, much like a lot of people, I had a preconceived notion of what it was. And it's not that at all. Polyamory is having the ability to love more than one person, but it's not based off of a sexual nature. That's not to say sex doesn't take place, because in any relationship or any healthy relationship, sex would be taking place. However, our love is what this is all about. And, and if I can, because I've told her this story, and I think I told you, Jeff, I'll tell the story of how we got together, and I'll be very honest about it, which makes me kind of like, but uh, we met on Facebook dating, and she said, she's very honest. I'm polyamorous. I'm looking to date, uh, and I viewed that as, oh my god, I suck in relationships. Clearly, I've had issues in relationships. I'm not good at that. This is perfect for me. I could date somebody, maybe see them once or twice a week, go out to dinner, hopefully be intimate, and she could then go home to her family. Well, as fate would have it, again, Thor with his hammer fucking clocked me right on the head, and I fell in love. And that wasn't on my agenda. It wasn't supposed to happen. So we have developed this very deep, honest, real, and pure relationship. And while Dee may be married, it has no bearing on our relationship. And she is, and I will say this right now, as somebody that's been married twice, as somebody that has had two girlfriends post divorce, this is the best relationship I have ever been in by far. It's not even close. And she is the most wonderful person. Uh, and the happiness factor, you can look at my photos. I actually smile in photos with teeth. I've never done that before. So many people have walked up to me and asked, but getting back to your question about that, polyamory technically is being able to love more than one person, but it's not a swinging lifestyle. There are certain people that will utilize polyamory to swing, but that's not what it's about. So this is, as I like to say, and Dee would say, it's a relationship. I like to say it's a real relationship. If you open up your mind, this woman has never been anything but loving, nurturing, supportive, and honest since day one, since we've been together. It is the best relationship I've ever been in.
Okay, two things. First of all, what do I call you in relation to your relationship? What's the phrase I use for you, Barry?
I don't know. What's the phrase you use, do you know?
I call you the
I can
13
go
year
with
old.
stud. Well, I'll go with stud.
No, the
Stud.
13-year-old boy. That's what I call you. I've said you're like a 13-year-old boy.
About that, yes. I love her like a 14-year-old boy who's infatuated, but
Yes.
yes.
So, secondly, based on the nature of this relationship and some potential questions that people that are coming to the ceremony might have, will Dee have her own table at the fan fest?
So, coincidentally, I believe we discussed this today over lunch,
Yeah, we did.
where Dee may have her own table at FanFest as well. She may have something for sale. I'm going to leave it at that for the moment.
Oh my! Does it involve nude pictures of you?
Do it.
That would sell out. It would
That,
sell
yeah,
out.
truly,
Absolutely
truly.
would sell out.
I can think of at least one, two, three, four, five guys from the group that would definitely buy the naked photos of Barry Rose. I'm not going to mention any names. So
I love it.
probably more, but at least five I know of. I'm kind of I'm either way on Flaherty. I don't know if Flaherty's buying or if he's gonna go up and do the Harold Strasser gimmick and say, "Oh, I don't have my money with me." Yeah, and try to
Like the
get.
cash machine.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes. So yeah, do Cash App, Venmo, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, well, we of course will be looking to seeing Dee again at the Fan Fest. Kim and I shared a lovely dinner with Lord Berenson Dee at the last Fan Fest, and it will be good to see her again. And then of course at the ceremony, Kim and I, in fact, have booked the extra night because they call me the booker. We have booked the extra night so that we can, in fact, go to the commitment ceremony in lovely downtown Dunedin, home, I don't know if it still is, formerly of the Dunedin Blue Jays, the single A
Still is.
affiliate of the Blue Jays from Toronto. So
Yep.
anyway, on that note, Barry, now getting back to the Fan Fest, you mentioned Mr. DiBiase Friday night. We have been lax. I don't know if it's me or you, and mentioning, in fact, some of the guests, some of the talent that you have booked for the next Fan Fest. Let's not keep it a secret anymore, Barry Rose. You've already broken kayfabe on your relationship, by God. Break some kayfabe on who's coming to the Fan Fest, I mean.
Yeah, so it is really exciting. So, coming up on October 25th, which will be 2025, we have got what I think is going to be our biggest event ever. And if you look at the talent lineup for this one, too, Ted DiBiase. Can I break kayfabe on this one, Jeff?
Go ahead.
Manny Fernandez making his debut.
Boom, right
Jerry
there.
Briscoe. Tito Santana, Wendy Richter, Leilani Kai, B. Brian Blair. The great Bill Apter is coming. We've got a bunch more names and we haven't announced them yet, but you know what? Let me put forth with this one too. Wildcat Wendell Cooley
Oh
will be
my.
making. I know that's kind of a big one there.
He is
He's
in
got that
fact, he is in
Mid-South
fact
connection with DiBiase.
a former Mid South Tag Team Champion, Wendell Cooley, I believe.
Yeah, which is exactly right. So, and we've got a bunch more names coming up over the next few weeks. We're going to be doing 3 different Q&As as well. Our first Q&A is going to be an hour with B. Brian Blair. We will be discussing his book, his autobiography. I'll be asking a lot of questions, and Brian is very open to discussing. I think I want to break kayfabe on something right now. Did you happen to hear about Hulk Hogan's funeral with Brutus the Barber Beefcake's wife?
I did hear something about that. We, of course, in episode Uno, discussed Hulk Hogan's death and some of the funeral. I know we discussed the fact that his daughter had put out there in social media that she wanted nothing to do with the funeral services and stuff like that. But I think post funeral, you have some updates from the local Tampa area.
I do. And just to get back to that, so apparently Brian Blair was on a podcast with Bill Apter. And they'll both be at the next Fan Fest, Bill Apter and Brian Blair. And Brian had said that, I guess, and I did not listen to it, so I'm paraphrasing, but that Beefcake's wife, I guess, was asked to leave the event. And she then posted publicly, "Bitch, Brian Blair, I hope I run into you at some point." Well, ladies and gentlemen, October the 25th, Brian Blair, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Beefcake's wife, and Bill Apter will all be at Glory Days GrappleCon 3. You can buy tickets by going to tixtree.com, and you want to go for the VIP ticket because to me, that's where all the action's going to take place. If there's going to be any shit going down, it is going to take place at that Q&A with Brian Blair. So you want to get that VIP ticket. I think there's like 10 left. Secure yours. The moment this episode comes out, run and get it. But there was breaking news today.
Wait a second, Barry. I want to ask you very quickly since you just mentioned that story. First of all, will there in fact be security at the Fan Fest in case all hell breaks loose?
Yeah, so superstar Sean Davis and his crack security team will be there once again.
Thank God.
So yeah, and we also have another guest, which I have not announced. We haven't officially signed them, and that guest is going to need security in some form. So
Oh my.
hopefully we can make that, and I'll talk to you about that off air. But hopefully we can make that announcement on the next episode or even sooner. But yeah, it's going to be very exciting with all this taking place. But story broke today on Bubba the Love Sponge. And if you're familiar with Bubba or not familiar with Bubba, he was the top morning guy on radio in the Tampa market for years. He has been on doing a podcast or some other form. He's been supplanted. He's not number one, but he was the guy that Hulk Hogan slept over his house and banged his wife, and he recorded it and then released it. And that ended the friendship between he and Hulk. And obviously, that's a really fucking scummy thing to do. And everybody involved, to me, it was a scummy fucking thing. But Brooke Hogan apparently has made some statements, and it went through Bubba. And the statement is that may be more to Hulk Hogan's death that needs to be investigated, that something isn't adding up. So they are calling for an investigation. And according to Brooke, again, his daughter, the police are now calling for a private investigation into this. Now, that is really interesting.
Well, as we speak, Brother Barry, I have pulled up, courtesy of page6.com. The headline
Right.
reads Brooke Hogan hints police body cam footage will reveal more about quotations, mystery quotations of Dad Hulk's death. The story continues. Brooke Hogan is insinuating that body cam footage and 911 calls could change the narrative surrounding the death of her father, Hulk Hogan. Quote, I 100% got legit calls from professionals, from police officials to nurses that were supposedly with my dad on the day of his death, telling medical examiner I need to see body cam footage. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me correct that. Telling me, not medical examiner, telling me I need to see body cam footage and I need to get a hold of the 911 tapes because they supposedly contain information that could potentially shed enough light to change the narrative everyone's been hearing, she claimed, in an explosive Instagram stories posted Wednesday. Boom goes the dynamite, Barry Rose. There you go.
An explosive, just the words explosive Instagram story just makes it sound so fucking 2025, right? Like, that's just
Exactly.
the funniest fucking thing. It's kind of a big deal locally. And obviously, while Hulk Hogan was a cultural icon that was known across the world, he is, essentially he's a Tampa guy. So it's been a bigger story locally.
Sure.
It'll be interesting to see the way that this all plays out. Hulk dying, first off, was a big story in the world of professional wrestling, but at a young age too, 71, 72, whatever it was. But if there's something nefarious that had gone on, and from everything that I read, they were very careful, but there was a slight inference that the people closest to him were responsible, which, quote unquote, would mean his wife. So again, we want to maintain that we've got to be very careful from a legal basis with that. But
Nothing being accused, nothing like that.
no, definitely not, and not by two guys doing a YouTube show. That's for sure. It's an explosive Instagram story, though, Jeff. That's how I
While
look at it.
we
That
break
is the funniest fucking phrase I've ever heard.
yeah, while we break kayfabe, we don't break news. There's a big fucking difference there.
There is. And hey, I have got a fucking story to tell you. There is a guy that I know, and he is the only guy I've ever known to be terminated from a volunteer position. You know this
Really,
guy?
really. Who could you be referring to?
It's somebody that I'm extremely close with, that I've snuggled with at night. I'm referring to you, sir. That's who I'm referring to. You have got to tell this fucking story.
As some of you may know, I have been volunteering for about 15 months at I'm not going to name any names here, at a local rescue place. And been doing it for at least 2 days a week. I did it usually on Friday and Sunday, and I would go out there, rain or shine, and get the dogs out, and because usually this particular facility had anywhere between 30 and 40 dogs that are, being in a position to be adopted and rescued. And, some of them are housebroken, some of them are not. So obviously, you want to get all the dogs out to take care of their personal business, if you will, Mr. Rose. And so I did that, and I'm not going to break any kayfabe here with you, Barry, but I think one thing definitely that you and I both have in common is we love dogs. And I have two rescues. Every dog I've ever owned since I was 10 years old, Barry, has been a rescue. I've never once paid for a dog. Uh, I wish I could say the same about different people I know, but I've always been a person to rescue a dog. I feel like I'd rather save a life than spend for a life. But anyway,
Absolutely.
so I'm doing this, and one of the things I started doing recently is I started doing a very worthwhile thing that happens here locally called Pooch Pontoon. By the way, I would encourage any of the brothers and shippers, brother or sisters out there that are watching this YouTube channel, check out on Facebook, quote, Pooch Pontoon on Facebook. It's a local woman here in the Gainesville area, and what she does is she has her own business where she will take dogs out on a pontoon to Lake Lanier, which is here around where we live, and they go out to a small island. You let the dog off on the leash. The dog runs around, has a great old time. Then there's a little small, cove where the dog can go out. They put a life jacket on the dog, of course, with a GPS collar. And the dog can go in the water, chase tennis balls, splash around. It's a freshwater lake, so they can drink the lake water. Although that's probably not the best, but they do that. So I've been having tons of fun doing that. So I was due to take a dog out about a week or so ago, and I received an email from one of the people that worked at the facility saying that we need to speak to you after you get back from taking the dog on the pontoon. And what would happen was I would go to the facility, I would say, okay, here's the name of 5 dogs that I want to take out. And I let them say, okay, well, here's 5 names. Let's have them take this dog out because this dog has been here for 6 months and has never been outside the facility. They probably need a day out to de-stress. And so, so they would pick out the different dog names. And I take the dog, I put him in my car, swig of Fiji for the working man. And, I've got a little thing in my car that, goes over the car seat so I don't get dog fur any worse than I do with my own dogs. And then I take the dog out by the lake. The woman meets me with her pontoon. We get the dog up on the pontoon and take the dog out, and they have a great time. Usually, altogether, the thing lasts maybe 2.5 hours. And
Jeff, not to interrupt, but that's what I do. You just say you take a swig of Fiji water?
we are looking for endorsements from Fiji, the
Good
finest.
point.
Thank you.
Good fucking point right there.
Reach out to
Yep.
me at
Yes,
double
we
B
are.
88 AOL.com. But anyway, so we do this, and so I've been doing this for close to a month now or something. So now they say we want to, after you're done with this one dog, we want you to come and we need to talk to you about something. And I said, well, I hope I haven't got myself in trouble or something. And I said it rather jokingly. So I go in there, and there's two ladies that I know that work at the facility. They said, oh, I said, you guys need to talk to me about something. Yes. Well, so we've had some concerns that more than one person had brought up about the way that you are talking to people, other volunteers. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they said, yeah, well, we've had a couple people say, you tell them which dogs to walk. So just to kind of paint a narrative here, when you walk into the facility where the dogs are being kept, okay, there is a board up there with every dog, and here we have this dog. Ozzy is in kennel 1 and Snap is in kennel 2. And what they do is, like, if I go in the morning, you check off that Ozzy and Snap have been out. So if somebody comes in at 10 o'clock and the next dog, my boy Roscoe, has not been checked off and he's due to go out, they know to take Roscoe first, right? And that's the way. It's a pretty good system. It works pretty well. So anyway, you've been telling, I go in there with Barry Rose and I say, Barry, I know you want to walk Roscoe, but no, I want you to walk Ozzy instead first. Like, that's sort of the scenario they painted. And I'm like, sitting there thinking to myself, I've never once done that. Like, what are they talking about? And I interact with, multiple volunteers in the 2 days that I go in. And so she said, well, then there's the next thing. And now there are dogs that are in this facility that are unfortunately heartworm positive. Okay. Dogs that are heartworm positive get on a medical plan that usually can go between 6 and 9 months. And when they go on the medical plan, one of the things that a veterinarian technician, or anybody that's associated with the care and wellness of animals and dogs especially, that you can't let them overexert themselves. So I'm not going to take a dog that's on heartworm medication out to the local greyhound track and have them run the 100. They don't want them to get worked up. So what they say is, we want you to, quote, leash walk them only.
Okay.
So at this facility, there are 6 what they call bark parks, okay, where you take the dogs. There's 2 larger bark parks where, the active dogs can go in there, of course, that don't have medical issues, and they can kind of run around. You throw them a tennis ball, and, sometimes they're up against each other and they run the fence line back and forth and have a good old time. Then they have 4 smaller yards, okay? And the 2 of the 4, the 2 smallest ones, one is for like puppies or dogs that haven't been immunized yet. And then there's one right above it that's a smaller yard that's, quite frankly, about the size of the room I'm in now, maybe a little bit larger, okay? So there was a dog that I would walk that was heartworm positive, and I would take him out for a walk sometimes, as they would instruct. And then there were some times where I'm like, this dog has been in a kennel for over 23 hours a day. And so I would take him up into this very small yard where I knew he was going to not get overexerted. And I would let him off the leash to just kind of walk around, maybe take care of a little personal business, Barry Rose.
The poor dog is literally in a cage for like 23 hours out of the day.
All
you're trying to do is to take him out and give him a little bit of freedom, right?
First of all, I would not describe it as a cage. He's in a kennel. So he's got, it's probably, I'm trying to figure out how wide it is. It's in 2 different sections. So it's not, it's not large, but it's not small. I don't want anyone thinking we're crating the dogs for 23 and a half hours a day. That's not what they're doing, giving them the benefit of the doubt. But anyway, my point is, I would take this dog, let him off the leash. I would, of course, monitor the dog. I'm not letting the dog start doing an expression that they use is get the zoomies, where the dog starts running around in circles and stuff. Yep. I would not let them do that. I would not let him exert himself. And then after like a couple, 2, 3, 4 minutes, I would put him back on the leash and I'd take him for a walk and put him back in his kennel. And so anyway, so now that being said, about 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more, I noticed this dog was not in his kennel. And I said, oh, did he get adopted? And they said, no, he's in the quarantine unit because he had developed a cough. And I said, oh, okay. I said, what is that? Well, they just want to monitor him, make sure that he's okay because he's heartworm positive. You have to be, make sure you are proactive as far as watching the dog, especially a dog. Heartworm is associated with, lung issues. And that's part of the reason why they don't want the dog to get all worked up. So anyway, so the dog's in the quarantine area for about a week or 10 days. And then I go in, the last time I was there, I think it was on a Friday, and the dog's back in his kennel. I'm like, oh, great, he's back. That's awesome. And I'm like, apparently he's doing better now. I said, okay. So that particular day, there were like 4 or 5 volunteers there. And so I did not take this heartworm positive dog out. Usually he was one of my regular walks, and I did not take him out. And so there was another volunteer there who was relatively new, and he had put him in one of the bigger yards where if the dog wanted to, the dog could run around and get himself worked up. And so I kind of gave the guy a heads up and I said, hey, listen, just want to give you a heads up. You don't want to put that dog in the big yard because they're worried that he's going to overexert himself and it could trigger something with his lungs or respiratory issue or something like that. He's like, oh, okay. Thanks. I appreciate it. And so I said, honestly, the dog's in his kennel for so long every day. Sometimes I take him in one of the very small yards. I said, but that's because he can't exert himself. And I said, let him off the leash for a couple of minutes, maybe, and then I take him for a regular walk. But they don't want him to get overexerted, obviously. And he said, okay, thanks. Go in, I finish out my day. Well, so now we're back in the room having the little conference. So one of the individuals in there.
So our listeners are clear. So it's yourself, and then it's I guess the two directors of the facility.
No, it's. I will only say it's two people that are, let's just say, in a management capacity there, and so the one lady says, well, this particular dog has this heartworm positive issue, and he had been in quarantine. We got him out of quarantine, and then I came in the following morning after you were here, and he was coughing again. And I said, oh, really? I said, well, I hope he's okay. And she's like, a dog with that situation, that goes out, he could die. And I'm like, but I didn't walk the dog. Somebody else walked him, the day before. And she's like, well, but you've taken him into the yards before. I said, I take him in the smallest yard there. And I said, I let him off the leash. I never let him get overexerted because I know he's heartworm positive. And so anyway, I said, I would never do that. I told my wife tonight, we were talking about it. I said, I'd literally rather jump in front of a car than have something happen to one of these dogs, And so anyway, so she goes on about how this dog was, he could have died. And and I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, is she like in some way associating the fact that I tried to either injure or further exacerbate how sick this dog? And it really started to quote the great Peter Griffin, it started grinding my gears, Barry, And so,
yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, so then she finishes and I said, okay, are you done now? Because I want to say something. And she goes, yes. So I said, well, as far as the whole thing about me telling people who they can walk and who they can't, I go, frankly, that is complete bullshit. I would never do that. I said, I work with the other volunteers. I would never have an issue doing that. I said, the only thing even close to doing that is there is one particular volunteer that comes in that seems to want to get puppies out first. And I go, and I told this person, the puppies are going to get adopted. People come into a facility like that. Generally speaking, if you got kids, you're not going to look for the dog that's 7 or 8 years old. 10-year-old wants a puppy. I get that. So they're going to get, fostered or adopted. But the older dogs are less likely to get adopted because people don't want an older dog. It's just the way, unfortunately, that it is in our society. So, I said, that's, complete bullshit. I said, I would never tell somebody that. I said, and the only thing I said was, I wish this one volunteer, instead of taking puppies out, would take out the adult dogs first. That's the closest I came to saying anything remotely like that. So then this person says, well, okay, we're going to want you to take a 2-week break. And I went, say what? And she goes, yeah. And I went, oh. Well, does this mean I can't do the pontoon thing anymore? And she goes, that's, by the way, not a dramatic pause. That's what she did. Well, okay, I guess you can still do that. Because what had happened was the woman that does the pontoon, she quite frankly is booked up for like a month in advance. So I had scheduled her out on a particular day of the week and, so that I could get the dogs out, every day. And I was lined up for the next 2 or 3 weeks with dogs, ready to go out. So, she said, yes, you can still do that. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, isn't that, very magnanimous of you to allow me to do that? So I said, okay, is that it? And she goes, yes. I said, okay. I said, and by the way, I still had the dog that I'd taken on the pontoon that I was holding on a leash. I said, well, you want me to take her back to her kennel? No, we'll get it. I said, okay. So I go and leave. So I get in the car and I'm
Well,
kind of,
let's be clear again. You're a volunteer. You're
yes,
not a paid employee.
no.
So it sounds like her behavior is really kind of spotty right there, also.
Well, I will not comment. So then I get in the car and I'm getting PO'd. And I call the wife, and I'll break kayfabe here if you haven't seen it on my own personal page. My wife and daughter are on a cruise in Alaska. So, left me here with the dogs. Thanks a lot, honey. Anyway, that's not being, a little humorous there. I call her up and she's like, well, actually, she was still at work here. She hadn't left yet. And she's like, well, I'm at work. I can't really talk. And, so part of me is like, man, I can't believe my wife isn't being more supportive. So then she calls me a couple hours later and she says, I'm sorry I couldn't talk. I said, no, I get it. I said, I've gone from being PO'd to where, quite frankly, I'm a little bit hurt. I'm a little bit hurt that as a volunteer, I'm not going to be able to associate it. And my wife pointed out, quite accurately, by the way, well, who is this really going to hurt? Barry Rose, any idea?
It's going to hurt the dogs.
Of course it will. The dogs are going to be the ones that are going to not be taken out because now somebody that goes there regularly, twice a week, that will go there because quite frankly, weekends are the time that they don't have a number of volunteers usually. And I go out there, if it's raining, I go out there and walk the dogs in the rain. If it's sunshine, I walk the dogs in the sunshine. If it was cold in the winter, I would still walk the dogs in the cold to make sure they got
As
out.
a real dog owner does, Jeff, and that's
Exactly.
exactly what real. So at this point, I'm going to need the names of these two managers. All right, I need to. I need to rally. I need to rally the internet around this one. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. So no, we will not be doing that. But and then my 2 week vacation, I went and picked up a dog for a pontoon ride. Nobody in question was there because this particular day that I would take the dogs on the pontoon, the facility is closed, but they're still open, of course, for staff and people that come to volunteer to help the dogs and stuff. So I went and picked up the dog, took the dog out, took the dog, put her back in her kennel and such like that. And so then I leave. And so now there was a person who was the coordinator for dogs that have, quote unquote, day trips, whether it's what they call foster to adopt, where you take a dog into your home and, you try to get people interested in potentially adopting the dog. And then there's like the pontoon rides. And so I was doing this. So I went in there, I got the dog, brought the dog back. And the person that I would facilitate this for usually was very proactive about returning my emails and stuff. And I sent her an email right afterwards. I said, listen, there's some questions I want to ask you about some things that came up today that, I've never run into with a couple of the other dogs. I said, the dog's fine. There's no issue. I said, but I just want to make sure, in the future, if I do have a question that I can, reach out and ask you. And I gave her my phone number. And I said, if you can call me or if you want to keep this strictly email me so that we can discuss this issue. Well, I didn't hear from the girl yesterday at the time of this recording. By the way, I don't know if the folks have noticed this, Barry. This is the first time ever in the history of Breaking Kayfabe with Bowdrin and Barry we've recorded at night. That's right.
Look outside. Dark. Holy shit.
To quote the great Bob Seger, we're working on some night moves, Barry Rose. So anyway, so the woman yesterday did not respond. And so I was speaking to my wife all the way up in Alaska. And I said, I get the feeling I'm kind of getting ghosted here. And she said, oh, maybe she had the day off or something. And I said, well, okay, maybe we'll see if she responds today. And so I get up today and I'm like looking and, I don't hear from her. So a little bit after lunch, still haven't heard anything from her. I'm going to check. Oh, let me check my email here, see if she's checked in with me here. And I still have not heard from her. And I'm like, okay, I'm officially getting ghosted. And I'm looking, and all of a sudden I see the name of the other woman who was in the meeting with me. And she informs me that my services as a volunteer are no longer needed. Thank you for your efforts and all that. But there was essentially a big word salad about why I was being terminated from my volunteer status, Barry Rose. So
word salad.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I will not be volunteering anymore at that particular facility. I don't know what the future holds for me as far as my volunteering. I'd love to be able to go to another facility because there are other facilities in the area that allow people to take dogs on the pontoon because the pontoon is pretty well established. And so I would like to potentially do that. Or as I told Kim, I might just be doing the Uber Eats one more day a week instead of going out and taking care of the dogs. I reached out to a couple of the other volunteers that I became very friendly with. I got pretty much the same response, which was WTF. And I said, there's a couple of long term dogs that have been there that I will miss, that I want to be updated on, whether they get adopted or if they're still there, how they're doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, I figure that this dog, the heartworm positive dog, the phrase in movies, Barry, they call him the MacGuffin. You know what the MacGuffin is?
I do know what the MacGuffin is.
The
We're
MacGuffin.
dating ourselves, by the way, by saying that. But
Well,
yes,
like for instance, the MacGuffin in Pulp Fiction was the briefcase that was,
yeah,
that people would open up and there was the light coming out, but they never saw, they never told you what was in the briefcase. Well, the MacGuffin in this particular story is that heartworm positive dog. He didn't have anything to do with the story. He was just what the story centered around. That was a very perfect circle I just drew there. So anyway, any further updates coming forward on this completely ridiculous story, we will be sure and provide it to you. Now, I can't guarantee, Barry Rose, that like Brooke Hogan, that this will be something that is Instagram. What happened to your camera there, Rose? We lost you.
minor earthquake in the
Okay.
Holiday, Florida area at the moment. I
I'm
think
sure.
we're okay now, but
I'm
we get
sure.
these
I'm sure.
earthquakes every so often.
I'm sure Brooke Hogan will break it on Instagram if it was. So
Explosive Instagram story
Yes,
about the
exactly.
Holiday earthquake. Yes.
So anyway, so on behalf of the boys here on Breaking Kayfabe with Bowden and Barry, YouTube edition, episode Dose E Dose. Barry Rose, you about ready to send this baby home?
I got to tell you, Jeff, this has been a groundbreaking episode between your story, the fact that I had the lovely Dee next to me, being able to discuss and talk about our upcoming ceremony. It's all been great, but I think that's it. I think it's time to wrap up.
We have no more explosive Instagram stories to share with you. So, anyway, on behalf of my co host Barry Rose, the lovely Dee, who may or may not join us in a future episode, and will be hosting her own table at the big fan fest there in beautiful downtown. Barry, give the folks the specs. Residents in Lutz, Florida, Suncoast Highway, what is it?
Yeah, it's even more confusing this time, but we have actually switched hotels, and while we have rooms, guest rooms for people that are coming to the event, our event is actually right next door at the Hilton. We will be there all day on Saturday, and if you do want to come, tickets are available at tixtree.com. Just look for Glory Days GrappleCon 3.
Now, will there be a certain guest who has appeared, I believe, at every single fan fest that always wants to be involved?
No, guaranteed that guest will not be there this time.
Oh, that's a deep, deep cut on the kayfabe there, my man. So anyway, folks, we appreciate you joining us here. We don't know whether or not we're going to be knocking out 2 a month, 1 a month, but I can assure you that you, beloved listener, beloved subscriber, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, tell your polyamorous partner, if you will. Did you see the way I worked that in there, Barry Rose? Thank you very much. Until next time, on behalf of Barry Rose, D, and myself, we will see you next episode. This has been an APB production. Shout out and thanks to my boy Andy. Barry Rose join me in thanking Andy for his contributions to the cause.
Andy.
Later, folks.